Someone send out a search party for me. I'm completely lost. I was supposed to be ready to go out about 40 minutes ago. Have I been getting ready? No. Do you know why? I've been sitting on Wikipedia. I watched a film quite some time ago and I was talking to someone about it and they were like, oh, you do know that's a true story? No, I had no idea that it was a true story actually. And now I've been sitting here since I finished work, Googling story behind it. I must have missed the small print on this one. We're like taking a quick phone break because the fact that this is a true story blows my mind. We need a story time on it. We're going to have a story time while I get myself dressed. It's October 2009. There's a phone call on an otherwise quiet shift. Cardinal rule number 1, never say it's a quiet shift. Hello, please, can I help you? The person on the other end of the phone tells you there is an elderly man curled in the fetal position in an alleyway who has been badly beaten. Sorry, sir, could you say that again? I can't quite understand you. Did you say he's been badly beaten? The person's tone is very harsh and kind of hard to understand. Because of the nature of the call, they send an ambulance and the police. Obviously. The police get there and they are surprised. This guy was not joking. The guy on the floor is not in good nick at all. He manages to mumble through all the bruising and the bleeding and the swelling that he's got going on that he knows his attacker, his kidnapper. He has essentially been kidnapped from his country in Germany and brought all the way to France and just dumped. Hear this guy's name, they send some of their best police officers to go and find him. And they do. They track him down. He wasn't hard to find at all. And they do it quick, but they needn't have. This man had no intention of running. This man was in his 70s too. Yeah, I know. Police get there and they're all sorts of confused. The guy's well dressed. Having seen him myself, I would describe him as a ringer for David Attenborough. And at the end of this story, you can Google him. Tell me if I'm wrong on this. And knowing that, imagine you turn up to this like big heist kidnap plan and then the guy standing in front of you looks like a man you want to give a hug. Instantly, the guy in front of you admits what he's done. He doesn't even try and deny it. He's quite happy to go with you. Take me away. Seriously, easy as that. No fight. So you put him in the back of the police car. You arrive to the police station. There's this quiet admiration in the other police officer's eyes as David Attenborough, we'll call him, walks through. So you would later find out that this crime was the epitome of the saying, revenge is a dish best served cold. Side note, I only just learned what this saying meant the other day. I've used this saying my whole life and never actually understood what it meant. Basically, it's saying if somebody does you wrong, you should take your time and plot your revenge, and then there'll be less suspecting of it, it will hurt more. Sorry if that's like glaringly obvious. I'm blind, I'm allowed. So the man in front of you has actually waited 30 years to get his revenge. So who, you might ask, is capable of waiting 30 whole years just to kick somebody's bottom? Well, his name is Andre, and he is a hero. Andre had had a very difficult upbringing. He was the son of Polish immigrants and he was taken away from his family during the war and only given back 6 years later. He was quiet and methodical and extremely clever, especially when it came to maths. It made perfect sense when he became a chartered accountant. Now, Andre wanted one thing more than anything in the world: a family. And he would get just that. The perfect pair, a boy and a girl. Everything in Andre's life felt good and complete. He could have lived that way for 100 years. Unfortunately, after a move to Morocco, him and his wife would decide to separate. And decide would be completely the wrong word, because Andre would not have decided that. See, Andre's wife actually had an affair with somebody they knew. Someone who only lived 4 doors down. Yeah, 4 doors down. I guess there wasn't Tinder in those days, hey? And Andre, desperate to keep his family together, was more than willing to forgive his wife's indiscretions. So they tried. They decided that it was probably a good idea to start fresh, so they moved back to their home country of France. However, more than the 4 of them moved home to France. Yeah, Daniel's fancy man moved too. He left his wife and he moved too. Andre finds out about it and he is absolutely heartbroken. He confronts his wife and she's not even sorry. She tells him she's going to leave. He abandons both her children and her husband in order to go and move in with Fancy Man. Now, a bit of information of the man who loved thy neighbour a little bit too much. He was indeed a fancy man. He was a doctor, not just any doctor, a renowned cardiologist. And Andre, He felt like he was no match for a man like that. He wore all the best suits. He drove nice cars. Women practically flocked to this man. Did you have fun seeing Mum and him? Dr. Cromback. He makes you call him that. Yeah. I don't want to go there. Dad, please don't make me keep going back there. Andre had 90% of the custody at this point, which for whatever reason you don't really hear of that much. And I think that speaks massively to how dedicated this father was. Now, the only problem is being a single parent on one income and trying to raise your children in a place like France was a little bit too expensive for what Andre could afford reasonably. And so he decides he's going to take his 2 children back to Morocco, where they can have a better lifestyle and it's just going to be way more affordable for him. When their mum, who, side note, has abandoned them, hears that his plan is to take her children all the way back to Morocco, she's not happy. She files some sort of motion in court to have the children removed from Andre's care, which neither of the kids want. They're very unhappy with this arrangement, but Andre has no choice. Eventually, because the kids are so unhappy staying with their mum, who decides to move to Germany at some point with this doctor, eventually she just relents and is like, okay, fine, you can go back and live with your dad. The only problem is it's summertime and the kids are quite happy in the summer in Germany. They're doing all sorts of like water sports and fun stuff. So they decide that this would be the last summer and then they would move home with their dad back to France. Now, heartbreakingly, at some point during this summer, Andre would get a call that would change his life forever. Now, if you are a parent, you already know what this call is. Andre's 14-year-old teenage daughter has died. In the night, with no explanation, she's passed away. And Andre's world falls apart. Understandably so. It was supposed to be one summer. It was nearly over. The kids were going to be home with him in France. Everything was going to be right again. It was going to be like the previous 5 years. And now, with no explanation, Kalinka is dead. So for 3 months, he arranges the funeral, he arranges to bring her body back, and he just goes through the motions. But then one day, a light bulb goes off. She has no health problems. She is fit. She is able-bodied. There is no reason that she should pass away in the middle of the night with no explanation. Because of the nature of her passing, there had already been an autopsy planned in Germany. However, the results didn't come back immediately. They took a very long time. Andre finally receives a copy of the autopsy. He is shocked. Things about this are just not adding up and he needs some answers. Your healthy 14-year-old daughter has died without explanation and you are holding the paper of her autopsy in your hands. It's been 3 months. Cause of death unknown. Food particles are found in her airway. Andre is a logical man. To him that says she choked. But her mum and her stepdad said that she was alive after dinner. She felt unwell and she went to bed. But she was fine when her stepdad checked on her and gave her a sleeping pill. But then there were the injection marks. I gave it to her for tanning. She likes to be tanned. Iron cobalt. Now, if you don't know what that is, that's an injection normally given to people who are severely anemic. So did that injection cause her to choke, have a fit? Why were they so reluctant to put that on her death certificate? Why were there numerous injection marks all over your healthy 14-year-old? I tried to bring her back to life. I gave her so many injections of so many different things. You have to believe me, I was trying everything I could. It was for her own good. But the list of medications that the doctor, her stepdad, gave made no sense. They weren't things that you would give to somebody in a life-saving situation. Then there was the timelines that didn't quite make sense. The signs of SA, and I won't go into detail about that because I feel like it's disrespectful. No parent should ever have to read that on an autopsy of their child, their baby. Now Andre is convinced his baby girl had been murdered by a man who destroyed their family, a person that's in a position of care of many young women. Imagine how it feels when you find out that the man you suspect of killing your daughter was actually present at her autopsy. Yes, that's right. Dieter, this evil so-and-so of a man, was allowed to be present. Is a renowned doctor, a respected doctor, who, side note, has ties to the government. So it's no wonder that the case is actually closed before Andre even gets a copy of the autopsy report. Andre, who remember is a chartered accountant, he likes things to make sense. He's a numbers man. And the math here is not mathing. He goes straight to his ex-wife and he lays out all the evidence in front of her. Surely she's going to see. She died because it was her time, Andre. That is a direct quote. I'm going to find this really hard not to say this, so I need to say it now. Burn in hell. Burn in hell for saying that about your own daughter. Burn in hell, woman. Danielle, his ex-wife, goes as far as to say that Andre is speaking badly about her husband because he holds a grudge for the affair that she had with him. Nothing grinds my gears more than somebody who puts a man before their children. Not a bit of me. Not a bit of me. Andre goes back to the German authorities and he begs them to open a case. And they just refuse. No explanation. Nah, not going to do it. So Andre goes out and he finds the best attorney that he can, the best one that money can buy him. And despite being very, very good and managing to get a second look at the autopsy, which they found more crazy stuff on, without the help of the German police, there just wasn't enough evidence to go and prosecute or even have a case against Dieter. After spending thousands of pounds and hitting brick wall after brick wall, going up against this powerful doctor, he takes to the streets. He prints thousands and thousands of posters declaring Dieter as a murderer with photos of his beautiful daughter, and he hands them out at a German beer festival. And he gets arrested. Andre, gets arrested. Not only does he get arrested, he then gets sued by Dieter, and Dieter wins the defamation slander case, and Andre is ordered to pay Dieter 500,000 German francs. And this is back in the 80s, guys. And you know what Andre does? He doesn't go and cry in his beer. Do you know what he does? He's a real bloody man. He goes home to France. He prints more flyers and he posts them to Dieter's neighbours. He did this despite being warned that he was going to be put in prison for 6 months if he did it again. This man doesn't care. He is going to get justice for his little girl. Andre decides that if Germany aren't going to help him, he'll go to his own country. Now, let's be more France, yeah? Because France actually seem to want to help this poor guy. They are more than interested in seeing old Dieter behind bars, thank God. So they exhume Kalinka's body, and what they find is absolutely horrifying. She actually had missing body parts. The people who had carried out her autopsy had removed I guess because it would have pertained some sort of evidence which could have incriminated Dieter. And so it's all looking quite conclusive for Andre at this point. And I cannot even believe that I'm saying this, but when they ask where the missing organs are, they have been lost. Simple as that. They just say they've been lost. Well, actually, they say that they were shipped back. But obviously that's not true. So they've been lost. France goes in with this court case. And even though Dieter himself doesn't actually attend, he stays in Germany like a little coward that he is, the court would actually find him guilty. Now, the only problem with this is they can't send out an international warrant for his arrest, which means he would actually have to come to France to be arrested or be in like another country to be arrested because Germany are completely protecting this man. Go figure. He'd actually assault not one, but quite a few other women that were in his care. Now, you would probably assume that if you were, I don't know, guilty of a crime like murder, you might stop all the silliness, all the craziness, all the evil behaviour. No. Our friend Dieter thought he was above the law, and I can see why, because Germany, yeah, you really had his back on this one, didn't you? He continues to hurt women in his care. Teenagers, children, and one of these women would actually report him. She was a patient of Dieter's and she was drugged and essayed. And this was in the midst or just after the court case which found him guilty. So it seems he hasn't learned any lessons. And in Germany back then, I can't believe I'm saying this, but because this poor girl didn't put up enough of a fight, it wasn't classed as the R word. Yeah, that was a law. Is that still a law? But this girl was drugged. If you want to see an interview with this pure evil man. You can actually go on YouTube and you can search his name and you will find that he was stupid enough and narcissistic enough to go and put himself on a German talk show, talking about this assault. And the interviewer, who's very good by the way, actually says to him, well, did she want to do it? Do you know what he says? Well, I can't really tell if she did or not, but she didn't exactly say no. I have no words. I have no words. How is that a thing? So he gets away with it yet again. He would also befriend another patient of his who had 2 young daughters, teenagers, and asked to take her daughters on holiday. And she said yes. And I don't have to tell you what he did there either. And when the girls came home from holiday, their own mum didn't believe them. Are all these women drinking the same stupid juice? What is this man doing to convince these women? The women of Germany are outraged, and rightly so. They do not want this madman on the loose, and they take to the streets in protest. Do you know what the government does? Sweet FA. Nothing at all. They have his back. It gets to the point where Dieter actually can't live in that place anymore and he has to move on. He gets a new job. And you know how he gets his job? A doctor dies. Mysteriously, Dieter takes his place, sleeps with his girlfriend, and continues his medical practice without a licence. Finally, we have a woman with her head screwed on in this story. A librarian who worked in the new town that Dieter had moved to would become very suspicious of Dieter. She would do a little bit of digging of her own. She would come to uncover all of his dirty secrets. She would even uncover the fact that his first wife had also died. A healthy 24-year-old passed away in her sleep with no explanation. Am I having deja vu here? So Dieter had no choice. He was going to pack up and run again, but this time to West Africa. Now, for Andre, our hero, Kalinka's dad, this was going to be very problematic. See, he's been tracking Dieter this whole time. He knows exactly where he is every time he moves. But West Africa would be a lot more problematic. It has been 30 years since his daughter died. Both of these men are now well into their 70s. He is going to see justice for his daughter. He has made a promise to her. He is going to get this man to France any way he has to. No other woman is going to be hurt by this evil man. So he finds a man for the job. He gets this old frail man kidnapped. And he doesn't tell them to beat him because he's classy. But after hearing the story, these 2 men decide to do it anyway. And I am sure you're just as glad as I am to hear that. And it works. They go, they take him from his home in Germany, they give him a good hiding, and they drag him all the way to France, and then they dump him. And Andre makes the call to the police. He tries to disguise his voice through leaving a piece of paper somewhere at the crime scene. They find out who he is, and they go and find him pretty soon anyway. He would finally get justice. Dieter, the murderer, would get sent to prison. And Germany would do everything they could to try and get the sentence overturned. And when that wouldn't work, they actually went after Andre. Germany, come on, hey, come on, give him a break. Luckily for him, he would get a suspended sentence and he wouldn't actually have to do any jail time. And Dieter would spend time in prison, eventually be released during COVID, and he would die in an old people's home not very long after. And I hope it was a very long and painful and drawn out one for you, Dieter. I have been more than happy to finally share a story in which the man is the hero, because I think we've had a lot of the reverse. So, I mean, if there ever was a story that sums up a parent's determination for revenge, I think it's this. I have never understood the parents that are able to forgive. I can't personally imagine that. I think that takes some amazing strength. I can just tell by watching Andre in interviews how much this man loved his kids and how much of a good dad he was. I highly recommend you watch the film. I watched it many years ago actually, and I had no idea that it was a true story. It's like the original Taken, except the ending is sad. Slightly different story time today, and now I am an hour late, so that's fun. Let me know if you like this true crime version. I am massively into true crime, so I love doing true crime stories. I've got to be honest, guys. Have a lovely evening and snuggle your babies extra tight.